Hey, what is up everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into another one of my videos. And in today's video, we're actually going to be going quite in depth as to the debate that has currently been going on about Finance. And we're going to be looking over a few of the things. Now, full disclosure, I am an investor still in Finance, but I will be talking about the goods and the bads from a neutral perspective. I, like many, have lost a lot. I do consider myself a heavy investor. However, this video will be based purely on facts and not emotions, at least to the best of my ability, with proof that I have gathered over quite some time now. Now, in this video, I will also be going over some specific issues. So the first thing that I will be talking about is the total value locked, so TVL, on both Finance and Kronos and DeFi as a whole. The second thing we will be talking about is the liquidity pool and how that has affected Finance. The third thing we will be talking about is utility for their tokens. The fourth thing we will be talking about is emissions. And lastly, we'll be talking about the socials of Finance, so their Telegram, Reddit, Discord. Now, before we jump into this video, please make sure you guys like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you hit that bell notification, as these videos are very time sensitive. Now, I have done extensive research on all of these topics, but if there is anything that I've missed, please feel free to comment down below or join our Discord, where we have talks about Finance and everything else every single day. The link is in the description. So number one, the TVL on Finance and Kronos. As I said, we'll be talking about the bad and the good. And on this topic, we're going to start with the bad. So at first instance, when we look at total value locked, we can head over to DeFi Llama. And as you guys can see here, Finance had at its peak $1.3 billion total value locked. Now, I do believe I saw this around that 1.5 million. However, we are going to stick to the facts. And over here, it said we're at 1.3 billion and we're currently at 300 million. So there has been basically $1 billion of TVL that has left the ecosystem. Now, that obviously is very concerning, especially for somebody such as myself that is heavily invested in Finance, that has been dollar cost averaging my position. And of course, that is something I need to take into consideration. Now, why did this happen? Is it the Finance team's fault? Is it Bitcoin, or just in general the crypto scene? Well, if we look at the good part, is the fact that if you look at DeFi Llama, you guys can see that the TVL overall of DeFi has actually dropped down to 109 billion. And what this essentially means is at the peak of 2022 so far, the TVL was at 230 billion. So overall, DeFi itself has actually lost over 120 billion dollars in TVL. And that is a lot of money. Now, if we actually look over to Kronos itself, you guys can see here that the Kronos TVL was around that $4 billion, and now it has dropped down all the way to 1.67 billion. So even here, you guys can see that Kronos itself has also lost 60-70% of its total value locked. And as such, for me, seeing Finance, a smaller project in the Kronos chain, losing this much may be seen to be precedented or expected because of the overall crypto scene. However, this is the first issue that I wanted to talk about. The second element that we were going to talk about is the liquidity pool. All right, guys. Now, in front of you, you guys will see the Savannah and the M-share charts. And I'm going to discuss exactly how the liquidity pool affects one of what I would say is the current leading token in the Finance ecosystem, or the token that is being talked about the most, which is the Savannah token. And linked with the Savannah protocol is, of course, M-share. And as you guys can see here, Savannah is pooled with Finance. Now, if we look into a couple of the transactions, the normal transactions look like this. So the individual who is selling the token is selling 93 Savannah tokens, as you guys can see right here. That gets converted into Finance, and then that gets sold into USDC. Now it is visible the person that's actually selling their Savannah tokens, they actually just wanted to pull out $9 of USDC. But what happened here is that not only was the price of Savannah impacted, but the price of MMF was also impacted. Now remember, the fact that MMF and Savannah are pooled together, it has a abrogating influence to the overall ecosystem, because now this person is not only selling $9 of Savannah, but they're also selling $9 of Finance, which has that double negative effect. And similarly for M-Share, you guys can see M-Share is once again pooled with MMF. So whenever somebody is selling M-Share to Crow tokens or to USDC, what is happening is M-Share is being sold to MMF, and then MMF is being sold to USDC or Wrap Crow, whatever it is. And that essentially is creating this adverse effect. Now, the other element of concern is the fact that we have transactions like this, where somebody selling MTT, so the Hakuna Matata share token, is having a triple adverse effect, where they're selling their MTT tokens and it is being converted into Savannah, which is then being converted into MMF and then being converted into USDC. So similarly, it's having this really negative effect over the entire ecosystem. And that is what the argument essentially a lot of people make, is that whenever one token is sold, it's dragging the entire ecosystem down. Because remember guys, everything, or at least almost all of their tokens, are actually pegged to Finance. Similarly, you guys can see right here another transaction that I found, where the individual is selling Tiger. So this is a token that is not even an Finance ecosystem token, but the fact that it is pegged to Savannah is affecting the Finance ecosystem a lot as well. So somebody from an outside protocol, so Scrub Finance, where there was a lot of controversy, for example, they're selling their Tiger share tokens, which is affecting the overall Finance ecosystem. And as such, I'm sure you guys can see from these examples how it creates a lot of pressure on the Finance ecosystem. And I do know the fact that the protocol itself, Savannah Finance, was meant to be pegged to Finance. However, this has that negative effect. Now, the good essentially in this is the fact that the token of Finance is being used a lot more. So as you guys can see here, for example, you have the Savannah Finance MMFLP, which is giving a daily APR of 0.74%, still very respectable, and it has 8 million TVL in here, so that is a liquidity pool created. However, a lot of people are arguing, and I am kind of leaning on this side as well, that it's simply not enough liquidity. And I personally do think that it is okay to essentially have Savannah pegged with MMF, because once again, remember guys, that is the aim of this entire project, is to have Savannah pegged to the price of 1 MMF via seigniorage. That's how Toon Forks work, is that they are pegged to a specific token, and in this case it is the Finance token. The third thing that I wanted to talk about is the launchpad, or specifically utility that the Savannah token currently has. So the most recent launchpad that Finance had was Donut Finance. And if you actually click the finish tab up here, you guys can see all the launchpads that Finance did host. And it is visible that in all of these launchpads, Savannah is the token that is required to participate. And these Savannah tokens get burnt. So here we can see that $750,000 in Savannah was burnt. And overall, the participation in these launchpads were pretty good. As we saw here, it was 4,000% total committed. Scrub Finance, it was 10,000%. MMF Money even had 3,000%. However, as we saw in Hakuna Matata, it came down to 800%, which was the lowest I've ever seen it. But until more recently, where in Donut Finance, we had 232%. Now, this obviously shows me that there is a decline in the amount of people that are interested in hopping into this, into these launchpads. And that might also just be correlated with the lack of money that is currently in DeFi, and how a lot of people are simply just afraid, and as such they'd rather hold stables. However, this is obviously a bad sign that these launchpads are not working as effectively as they were before. I'm sure a lot of people have seen my videos where I was going into all of these launchpads with Savannah token or MF token before Savannah was introduced. And I would essentially play the pump. There is always, or there was rather always, a huge pump that came with these launchpads, whether it be for the Finance token that was raised or the Savannah token, which we saw more recently. And that was helping the project. However, as we saw, if there's only 200%, 300% being raised, it's not really going to aid the price of Savannah. And as such, me personally, I think it is important to have more utility than just these launchpads. I did see lots of suggestions of a way to possibly burn the tokens by using them in a lottery system or doing other things. Now, this topic is obviously a little bit correlated to our next topic. Now, the fourth thing that I wanted to discuss is emissions. Now, there was a lot of community talks about how Savannah Finance is printing way too much Savannah tokens for the protocol to be sustainable. As you guys can see, we have 207 million Savannah tokens on the market in the circulating supply. So obviously that is an extremely high amount of tokens, and if the expansion rate is 2.5%, it's extremely high, and it's creating a lot more Savannah tokens than is currently in demand. We can see that the Savannah token price has dropped drastically from a high of around $3 all the way now down to 10 cents. So that is essentially the bad part of Savannah Finance, where I do believe that the expansion rate is too high, the emissions are too high, and so does the community. It's visible that a lot of the community have said that. However, in contrary, the good thing that Finance has done recently, as you guys can see here, yesterday at 10:29 p.m. my time, they did reduce Savannah emissions by 30%. Now, a lot of people did ask whether or not this reduction is only in regards to the protocol or if it's just in general, like across the board. And in my personal opinion, because the language does not specify a certain LP or a certain farm, I do think they have reduced the emissions by 30% across the board. And I do think that will help the protocol a lot. And my argument for that is because of the fact that if you guys look at the current daily APR, it's 1.45%, which is considerably less from the 2.5%, 3% that we were getting before. However, this is still a lot. I do know there's still a lot of people that are saying that even this 500% APR is too high. However, when we do look at other successful tomb forks or tomb forks that are being able to keep their peg, such as Great Finance, which is a project that I am extremely bullish on, that I have been a part of for a long time, we can see that they've been able to sustain the project pretty well with giving out about 1.3%. This does go up all the way to 1.4, 1.5% at times as well. So that might be something that is a little bit more sustainable. And of course, the Savannah Finance protocol, the Finance team, the community is much bigger than Great Finance. So I do think the reduction in emissions will definitely help the price and can potentially help the peg come back, because obviously, guys, for this protocol to be successful and functional, we need Finance peg to be above this line right I have right here. It needs to be above 1.01, which it currently is not. Therefore, for the conclusion of emissions, I do think emissions were a little bit too high. I do think this reduction will help, and the fact that they have a new LP created, as you guys can see right here, will, in my opinion, help the protocol sustain a lot more, because of the fact that now people will be able to use their M-share and Savannah and LP it together to earn at least something, instead of having to, for example, sell their M-share and then buy Savannah to make Savannah MMFLP, the protocol becomes a little bit more self-sustaining because both of the tokens are essentially being utilized together. So that is something that I do think is good. And I do want to appreciate the fact that they are indeed listening to the community. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is socials. So what do I mean by socials, and why is that important? Well, I personally think socials are important because as a new investor, or as an investor myself, looking at the community is very important. So whenever I see the Telegram, the Reddit, the Discord, or anything being toxic, or being a place where there is a lot of negativity, for me as an investor, it is obviously discouraging. Now, in regards to socials, we're going to look over to the Discord first. The first thing that I do want to discuss is the fact of the Finance team making announcements almost every single day. This is something that I am extremely bullish on. I like communication, and of course I like seeing that there are changes being made. They are listening to the community almost instantly, so I have to give them that credit. And I have not seen at least a credible allegation made against the team yet. And if you guys do listen in to the AMAs, and I've listened to every single AMA so far, because as I said, I am an investor, so I do suggest you guys do the same. You will see that the team is indeed trying their best. So of course, once again, no emotion, pure facts. You guys can see that they are following the community. And if we scroll down to the Savannah M-Share Talk chat, you guys can see here that the community is indeed very active. Now, similarly, over on their Telegram, you guys can go into their Telegram and see it. And I have been seeing a lot of complaints in regards to the Telegram and how the moderators have handled the chat. Now, of course, this is out of my discretion as I am not staring at this chat every single day. And I do know that the moderators do obviously have a hard time handling everything. It does obviously get frustrating. However, there has been several complaints of the fact that even asking a simple question or asking a relevant question sometimes gets interpreted as FUD. Now, I personally, as I said, am not active in the chat as much. However, it is my honest request to the individuals inside the Telegram group, the Discord group, to try to keep the place very friendly, because me as an investor, I do like to see positive vibes. Now, that doesn't mean essentially spamming gifts all day long, especially inappropriate gifts. I think that needs to be regulated. And of course, if there is FUD, it is no good. So FUD needs to be removed. And the last place that I want to look at is the Reddit community for Finance. And wow, there is so much stuff going on in the Reddit community for Finance. It's honestly a lot to take in. However, I have been monitoring this for about a week now, just to see what has been going on, where people's heads are at. And I will say that there are a lot of reasonable queries, and there's a lot of posts that are pretty good. However, the majority or a lot of the posts are essentially FUD. There's a lot of people that I have seen that are essentially just flooding the Reddit, which is of course discouraging to new investors. As you guys can see here, this individual stated that Finance is moving money behind the scenes in fresh addresses to avoid being tracked. They are being anonymous all the time. Now, obviously, this is a huge allegation that they are moving money, and it is required to have a lot of evidence to say something against a team that has been, doing what they are doing. They're not just disappearing on us or anything like that, even though they easily could have, but they are making announcements and everything. So of course I had to look into this, and as you can see, this individual's proof is from the fact that Digits Capital said something on Twitter, and I don't even want to entertain this because of the fact that of course it's from Digits, who is an individual that carries a lot of conflict themselves. So I personally obviously did realize that this is not a good post. And obviously I understood that this is obviously FUD. I mean, this is kind of clear FUD. Even the person posting it understands that this is not going to go anywhere. However, they still do, and this creates frustration, and frustration is not good in the community. Similarly, as you guys can see here, more proof about MMF trying to silence information. Another huge allegation. Very well organized to downvote everything to allow the truth to go out. So grammatically incorrect as well right off the bat. And as you guys can see right here, the proof of silenced information is what? There is nothing. Reddit out of control. Not sure really. Yes, Reddit is all negative posts. A lot of them mentioned they've been out of the project for a long time and still with FUD. So once again, there's nothing here to show that MMF is trying to silence information. Basically rubbish in my opinion. As you guys can see, everything was planned to wreck all investors' money. Once again, a lack of evidence, a lack of proof that was provided, and as such, it is upsetting to see these individuals actually do this. It's such a waste of their time. It's a waste of everybody else's time. And of course, it creates frustration within the community. However, the good side of Reddit is still there as well. As you guys can see, an individual posted here, how can we help MMF team unlock MMF potential? These are legitimate posts discussing ideas. They want collaborations and more ideas to, talk about the project, to try to, figure out what's going on. We are obviously in a very bearish market right now, as you guys have seen, even in regards to the overall TVL of DeFi. So, instead of creating more frustration like this individual here, it's very important to be transparent and support each other to try to find more potential. For individuals that are frustrated, I completely understand. As I said, I've lost, of course, a lot of money in here as well, and it's definitely not a comfortable feeling. However, posting things to potentially help other people or help yourself by creating ideas is, of course, in my opinion, the better approach. Now that is going to be it in regards to this video. Let me know what you guys think about Finance, what you think about the arguments that I have presented in front of you guys here today, and whether you guys think the Finance team is working towards what they have stated they will do, or whether you guys think that the Finance team and the project itself, the protocol and all the protocols attached to the team is essentially just sinking slowly. Now, I personally, as I mentioned, do have a lot of funds inside Finance and Savannah. So of course there is some bias. However, I have tried my best to try to portray the good and the bad from a neutral perspective in this video. If you guys did agree with me, or if you guys did like this video, make sure you guys do like the video down below. It would be very, very helpful, and hopefully we can get this information out to other investors and participants in the Finance ecosystem, so they as well can alleviate some of the frustration or discuss down in the comment section below. Of course, you guys are always welcome to join our Discord. There is, as always, no charge, no subscription fee, no premium fee or anything like that. It is free for everybody. I want to thank you all for watching my video. I hope you all have an amazing rest of the week, and as always, guys, let's get that bag. Peace.